Week 19 of your 40 weeks to freedom from the narcissist is about sharing your story. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and tell everybody or anything that you're not comfortable with. But you would be surprised at how many people have been through similar situations. And it's hard for a lot of people to talk about it because narcissistic abuse is something that's, for one thing, it's very difficult to prove. Because a lot of times with narcissistic abuse, it's not physical. Now, I'm not saying that every time it's not physical, because in some cases it is. But a lot of times narcissistic abuse is emotional and mental damage. And if you've suffered through it, then I don't have to tell you. But telling your story helps to do a few things. It helps you to admit that what happened to you was in fact abuse. It helps you to work out some of your feelings. The very night that I was put into, I had to stay just one overnight in the psychiatric ward of our local hospital after having spent a week there already with like a constant sitter. I was permitted to have like a handful of these tiny little sharpened pencils, and they let me keep my journal. They took everything else. And in that one night, I filled up the whole journal. It was all fresh in my mind. I wrote it down, not just to help other people, but for myself. In the beginning, it was for myself, so that I couldn't go back later and say, oh, it wasn't that bad. And that's the other thing telling your story does, is it helps you realize that, yeah, it was that bad. So that when the narcissist tries to re-enter your life in some way, you can remind yourself, go back and read what you wrote or what you video recorded. If you video recorded like a video journal, and remind yourself how bad it really was. If you are several months or several years into your healing after the fact, it's kind of a shock to go back and see some of my earlier videos. Back in 2016, when I started recording myself in what had happened to me, I was a different person. I was a completely different person, not at all the strong person that I am today. So telling your story is for you. And you can tell it by journaling it, video recording yourself, do a video journal. I like the video journals personally. You don't have to upload it to YouTube or anywhere else. You can do it just for yourself. But that way you can see the change in you, as time progresses. But again, telling your story is for you. It helps to remind you that, yes, you went through this horrible thing, and that, no, it's not worth it to take them back thinking that they're going to change, because they're incapable. Narcissists are incapable of changing those spots. And it is, and I don't want to give them any leeway and say it's not their fault. It really isn't. But it is an imbalance in their brains. They absolutely cannot and don't have any desire to change. They lack that empathy that most people have. So tell your story, even if you tell it to a notebook, if you tell it to a camera, if you tell it to a friend, if you tell it to a family member, if you stand in front of the mirror, tell your story.